So about, at least my mission, the culture in my mission, it's kind of hard to understand until you're there. I think the best way to describe it now, in my mission, there are big cities and small cities. So the big cities, they have, shopping centers. It's very, very urban, very, we could go downtown and it's not going to be similar, but it's a downtown feel, high energy, has this city feel to it. But I grew up in Utah. So in Utah, at least, in Provo and in Salt Lake area, the cities kind of blend together. So you can go from, I live in Sandy to Draper, and there's no definitive line other than the sign that says, welcome to Draper. You don't know, you pass a line. But in Salta, at least, there's the big cities, and then you'll be driving with nothing, just in a desert for 45 minutes to an hour by bus, and then you'll come to like a little city that's just kind of been plopped in the middle of the road. Then you'll have to drive another 2 or 3 hours to get to the next city, which seems like it's just been stuck in the middle of the road. So I think that, understanding that if you are in the big city, it can be it just depends on the people and your investigators, because then your investigators will have jobs. They probably will be educated. Their schedules will be harder to work with. It might be more, run off of time than, say, someone who lives in a more rural city. Usually where I served was rural. So I remember my first night I got to the mission, and I stayed in Salta. My trainer came and picked me up with the other missionaries. We had our training, and then we left. And oh my gosh, I remember this was so crazy. Okay, so my companion was this cute little Chilena. Her name's Hermana Castro, and she's the best. I just adore her. Oh, sorry, Mike. Sorry. Okay, so I just adore her. So she picks me up, and then we left. And in that moment, I kind of realized, this is it. I haven't even met my president before, but I felt a huge attachment to him. Like, this is my dad. This is the person that I love, and they're taking me away from this person that I just met, but he's so important to me. So we go to leave, and she's probably 5 feet tall, and we go and find a remis, and a remis is like a little taxi. So you can travel by these remis or taxis or bus. So we had missed the last bus because it was late. It was probably like 11:30 at night by the time that we were going from the capital or the mission at home to our city, which is an hour away by bus. So she took my huge suitcases. We called a remis, and they have like all everything there. It's just a little bit older. So a lot of their taxis are cars from the 80s, but they're a little bit older just because they're not American style. But kind of think of that, older cars that are a little more compact. So the driver shoved my huge suitcase in the trunk, and only one could fit. So then the other suitcase was in the back of the car, the back seat of the car, and my companion that I just met was sitting on my lap because we couldn't fit. Well, they want to be really efficient about getting paid as well. So they don't want to make a big trip unless they have all the seats are taken up. So I just remember I didn't understand anything. It was dark. We just got in this car that, I actually I thought it was going to fall apart, kind of. It was kind of old. So we get in this car with this man that we don't even know. And then we're driving around, and then suddenly he makes a turn and he pulls into some underground parking lot. And I just remember thinking, that's it. We are going to die. we are going to die. He has taken us here because I was so arrogant, because I'm an American and now I have all my things here. Clearly all my money is here and everything I have. And this was so terrible. And he's going to take all our stuff because there were a lot of other people, a lot of other cars, a lot of action going on, and I had no idea what was happening. But I think that's one of the most important things to understand about the culture. What he actually did was take us to like their little taxi hub to pick up another person to go to Güemes. So he didn't lose any money on the trip. So this other big guy gets in. So to ending up at the end of the drive, being such good friends with the man that he picked up and the driver. And we got their information. They had talked to missionaries before. They loved the church. And we were able to go and send the one reference off and visit the family of the other man. So, you know, you go from these situations to, I'm not sure how this is going to be. I don't even know, just because my companion, she's got a badge on, but I don't even know anything about her. To, you know, these people are so awesome. They just laugh. They don't have a care in the world. It's kind of like, oh, the car just broke down. Don't worry. It's fine. We'll just keep going. Or, oh, you know, I don't know. A horse just ran into our front yard. Oh, don't worry. You know, they're so wonderful in that way. Just, oh, don't worry. We don't have any worries here. We're just happy. And so in these smaller towns, though, they are founded in the 1800s. So you go into these smaller towns, and a lot of they all have a city square, which is so cute and so quaint. It's almost like you're walking back in this town in Spain from the 1800s, where they have this center, and usually the big Catholic church is just right in the center square. And they have statues in the center, just trees that are maybe 10, 12 feet in diameter, just huge. It's beautiful. And the streets will be paved. At least I'm talking for the, you know, the more rural. If you're in the city, it's going to be different. But my experience was, you know, the main streets are paved, and maybe 2 or 3 streets farther than that on either side. And then it's all just dirt roads. It's all dirt roads, and all the houses there are made of concrete because it's just so dry, or it's so hot. They don't have, you know, sheetrock or anything down there. Literally, they get cinder blocks, and they will build their houses out of cinder blocks. If you have a concrete house, it's probably because you're a little bit more wealthy. They only have normally 1-story houses. 1-story houses with maybe 2 to 3 rooms. If you see someone with a 2-story house, they're very wealthy. So that's kind of interesting, you know, and they'll usually live closer to the center, or this central plaza. You know, does that make sense? So, but then as the farther out you go, it'll be, you know, cinder block houses, very humble people. A lot of them are very humble. They'll usually have a little kitchen. There are no dishwashers there. There's no dishwashers. There's no washers for your clothes, washers or dryers. And then they'll probably have 1 or 2 rooms where all of their children will sleep together, usually in the same bed, or they'll have 2 beds. And it's very common to have big families, from my experience down there. That's very common for a mother to start having children when she's, you know, 16 or 17. And they keep having children up through her 30s. And a lot of times these women that are now in their 30s are grandmas. So that's just it was so interesting to see that family dynamic where it's, you know, big families. And because a lot of times these women will have a lot of children, they'll go back and live with their parents. So there's not a lot of, until you're established, you could have 2 or 3 families living in the same little home. And that's why you'll get 2 rooms with maybe 4 or 5 people sleeping in one room, and, maybe the grandma and the grandpa, whoever's house it is, sleeping with 1 or 2 more in their room. So it's all and that's kind of where they get this close-knit society from, just because that's how they grew up. They grew up as whatever I have is yours as well. So it's just it's so fun. It's so fun because you'll be walking down the street and there's just children playing everywhere. Usually was my experience, just children playing, and you really realize how blessed you are. No matter if you're in I would say, maybe in a poor area or an okay area, they're not like our neighborhoods here, And you really realize that what you're doing is really hard, because you have to go to these people that you love, that they don't have any money, but they want to feed you because food equals love there. And they want to give you these things, and you also are going to tell them about tithing and how that's going to bless their family when they already can't feed their family. Or you see these kids that they don't buy shoes in the summer because they're just outside all the time, or their shoes are either torn to pieces, but these kids will just run up to you and they will want to love you. They just want to love you. And I think that that's the best part. So as a missionary, you do look different. So as you're wearing a skirt, the elders are wearing their ties, so you look different, but they recognize you as having this glow. And before the mission, you hear about the glow, and you're like, oh, the glow, they have the glow, the missionary glow. And you don't realize it until you get there and people tell you, and you don't see it. I wouldn't say that you necessarily see it in yourself, but others recognize it, and then you recognize it as they change.